Bible in a year, making it easier to understand.
Think about your worst day. Now imagine that day lasts for 3 weeks. No, make it months. Your food is gone. Your economy is trashed. Your gods, the things you literally built your entire reality around, are getting systematically dismantled by a guy with a staff and a god you've never heard of. Pharaoh is sitting in a palace that's getting smaller by the minute, and he's still trying to negotiate like he has the upper hand. But the east wind is blowing, and it's bringing the end of his world with it.
Welcome back to the Deeper Dive community. I'm Stephanie, and I've got my research pile literally stacked to my chin today. This is day 35 of our journey through the Bible in a year, and we are entering what I like to call the final showdown.
And I'm John, currently on my 4th cup of coffee because day 35? Wow. We are in Exodus 10, 11, and 12. If you've been following along, we've already seen the Nile turn to blood, the frogs, the gnats, the whole nature gone wild starter pack. But today? Today is the grand finale. This is where God stops playing around and starts a total reformat of Egypt's cultural hard drive.
It really does feel like a system-wide crash, doesn't it? John, I was looking at the readings today, Exodus 10 through 12, and what struck me isn't just the miracles themselves. It's the psychology of the whole thing. It's the way Pharaoh is just spiraling. He's losing his grip on everything.
Oh, he is 100% in a toxic loop. It's like that person in the group chat who keeps getting proven wrong, like fact-checked into oblivion, but refuses to leave the conversation or admit they're wrong. He's trying to negotiate with God. He's like, okay, Moses, you can go, but leave the kids, or leave the cows. Bro, look outside. You're in no position to bargain.
Bro, look outside. Exactly. But we have to look at the 8th plague, the locusts. In Exodus 10, the text says they covered the face of the land until it was literally black. Now, for the Egyptians, this wasn't just a pest control problem or a bad year for the garden. This was a targeted strike against Osiris.
Osiris, that's the CEO of the harvest, right? The guy who was supposed to be in charge of the agricultural budget.
Yes, Osiris was the god of agriculture and sprouting vegetation. But it goes deeper. There was also Neper, the god of grain, and get this, Bastet. She's the cat-headed goddess.
Wait, what do cats have to do with locusts?
Think about it. Ancient Egyptians worshipped cats because they protected the grain supplies from rodents and vermin. So, when the locusts show up and eat every single green thing that the hail didn't already destroy, it's God saying, your grain gods are fired. Your cat goddess? Useless. I own the harvest.
That is wild. It's like a total security breach. You have all these firewalls like Bastet and Osiris, and God just bypasses them like they aren't even there. It's a total economic collapse. No crops, no grain, no security. It's like if every cloud server in the world just deleted itself, and we had to go back to paper and pencil overnight. The app isn't working anymore.
And the servants, they finally break. I love verse 7 in chapter 10. Pharaoh's own officials turn to him and say, do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined? They're seeing the modern mirror before we even coined the term. They realize the system is broken.
But Pharaoh? He just hardens his heart again. It's that heart condition we keep seeing. He's so wrapped up in his own status as a living god that he'd rather watch his country burn or get eaten by bugs than admit there's a higher power. It's pure ego. It's that one guy who refuses to pull over for directions even though the GPS is literally screaming, recalculating.
But then we get to the 9th plague, the darkness. Exodus 10, verse 21. A darkness that can be felt. John, I've been thinking about that phrase all morning. Darkness you can feel.
It's terrifying. This isn't just lights out because someone forgot to pay the bill. This is a palpable, thick, oppressive void. For 3 days, nobody moved. They couldn't even see each other. And here is the plain English translation of why this mattered. Ra.
The sun god, the big boss of the Egyptian pantheon.
The biggest. Ra was believed to be the source of all life. Every night, they thought he fought a giant serpent to bring the dawn back. So, when the sun didn't come up for 3 days, they didn't just think it was a long night. They thought Ra was dead or defeated. God snuffed out the sun like a candle on a birthday cake and basically said, your main god is in a timeout.
And don't forget Horus, whose right eye was the sun, and Nut, the sky goddess. God is just checking them off a list. He's saying, you worship the sky? It's black now. You worship the sun? It's gone. You want to feel something? Feel my presence in the dark.
It's that death of hope we see in modern times. When the things we rely on for light, our social status, our bank accounts, our tech, when they fail, we're left in a darkness that is physically heavy. It's a sensory deprivation tank, but the tank is your whole life. You're paralyzed.
And yet, verse 23 says, all the people of Israel had light where they lived. That's such a powerful contrast. While Egypt is in a felt darkness, Israel is walking in God's provision.
It's a total flex from God. He's showing that he's the one who controls the power grid of the universe. He's not just a local deity. He's the sovereign Lord. But Stephanie, the darkness ends with Pharaoh basically telling Moses, get out, and if I see your face again, you're dead. He's still acting like he has the power to threaten the guy who just turned off the sun.
And that's the tragedy of a hard heart. He's choosing his pride over the survival of his people. Which leads us to the chapter that changes everything. Exodus 11 and 12. The announcement of the final, most devastating plague.
The one that hits the heir to the throne. The 10th plague wasn't just about death. It was about the failure of the entire Egyptian religious system. Pharaoh was considered a god, and his firstborn son was the god in waiting. By striking the firstborn, God was executing judgment on all the gods of Egypt, literally cutting off the divine line.
It's so intense. I mean, we're talking about every house in Egypt having someone dead. It's a national trauma. But God provided an out. He didn't just strike. He gave instructions for a way to be passed over.
And that out is what we're going to dive into next. We're talking about the lamb, the blood, and why a verified blue checkmark is the only thing that could save you when the destroyer rolls through the neighborhood.
We've got a lot more to unpack, including a word study on Passover that might actually change the way you see God's protection.
Don't go anywhere! We're going to take a quick break to let our own locusts, you know the kids, finish their snacks. We'll be right back.
And we are back. I just had to take a second to fan myself after that bridegroom of blood deep dive. John, I think you owe our listeners a modern mirror that doesn't involve ritual surgery at a roadside motel.
I hear you, Steph. I promise. We are moving from the weird and wild into the way too relatable. If the first segment was a supernatural thriller, this next part, Exodus 5, is basically a corporate horror story. It's the original Monday morning from hell.
Right, because Moses and Aaron finally get their meeting with the CEO of Egypt. They walk in, they give the pitch, let my people go that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh's response is basically the ancient version of a reply-all email that just says, no, and also, everyone's staying late this Friday.
Oh, it's worse than staying late. Pharaoh doesn't just say no. He executes a masterclass in administrative cruelty. He looks at his taskmasters and says, you shall no longer supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota.
Do more with less. The most terrifying phrase in the English language, and apparently the Egyptian language too. But John, explain the straw thing to me like I'm in 5th grade. Why was this such a big deal? Was the straw just like for decoration?
This is where the material science gets really cool. Ancient Egyptian bricks weren't just mud, they were a high-tech composite. You take the Nile mud, which is clay, sand, and silt, and you mix in chopped straw as a binder or a temper. The straw absorbs the stress when the brick is drying in the sun, so it doesn't crack or shrink. Without that straw, the bricks are brittle. They're useless.
So Pharaoh isn't just making the work harder, he's sabotaging the quality of the work and then blaming the workers when it fails.
Exactly. And here's the kicker from the research. The Bible uses 2 very specific Hebrew words here. Before the decree, they were given teben. That's good. Chopped up straw that's ready to use. After the decree, they have to go find kash, which means stubble or chaff. It's the worthless leftovers in the field after the harvest.
Wait, so they aren't just gathering it. They have to travel all over the land of Egypt to find these tiny scraps of leftover stalks. Then they have to chop it themselves, and then they have to start the actual brickmaking process that they were already doing for 12 hours a day?
You got it. It's a logistical nightmare. Imagine your boss tells you that you have to write 10 reports by 5 p.m., but then they take away your laptop and tell you that you have to go find some old typewriters in a basement somewhere. And oh, by the way, you still have to hit the 5 p.m. deadline.
I think I just quit. But they couldn't quit. They were trapped in the corvée. That's the state labor system. And Pharaoh's justification for this is what really gets me, John. He calls them idle. He says, "You are idle, idle. Therefore you say, 'Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord.'"
That word idle, norpim, is so loaded. Pharaoh is gaslighting an entire nation. He's looking at people who are literally being beaten to death in the mud pits and saying, the only reason you want to worship God is because you have too much free time. You're just lazy. You need more KPIs to keep your head down.
It's such a modern mirror, isn't it? I feel like we see this in our own culture all the time. We live in a world that defines our value by our production. If you want to take a Sabbath, or spend time in prayer, or just exist without a side hustle, the system calls you idle. It's the theology of the hustle culture taken to its most extreme, violent conclusion.
Yes, it's the corporate brick pit. Pharaoh is basically saying that worship is economic sabotage. In his mind, every hour spent thinking about Yahweh is an hour that could have been spent building a storehouse for his own glory. It's a conflict of gods. The God who says rest versus the God of the state who says produce.
And the result for the Israelites is absolute brokenness of spirit. I think that's in Exodus 6 verse 9. The people couldn't even listen to Moses because of their broken spirit and harsh slavery. That is so real. Sometimes the trauma of your situation is so loud that you actually can't hear the good news when it's being shouted in your face.
It really is. Moses is standing there with these incredible promises from God, but the people are just like, Moses, please shut up. We're getting whipped because of you. Your deliverance is making our lives a living hell. And if we're being honest, John, Moses feels the same way. He goes back to God and says, Lord, why have you done evil to this people? You haven't delivered them at all.
I mean, is he wrong? If God is all-powerful, why did he let the first meeting go so badly? Why did he let the people get beaten? It feels like God is a terrible project manager.
A terrible project manager. I love that. But here's the deeper dive perspective. Steph, God isn't looking for a quick fix. He's looking for a total dismantling of the Egyptian system. If Pharaoh had just said, sure, take a 3-day weekend, the Israelites would have gone back to the brick pits on Monday. God wants them out, permanently.
So, the pressure is part of the process?
It's the dumbing down of human strength. God is letting the situation get so bad that when the rescue finally happens, nobody, not Moses, not the elders, not even Pharaoh, will be able to say, yeah, we handled that pretty well ourselves. It has to be 100% Yahweh.
It's like when your phone is so broken that you can't even update all. You just have to get a whole new device. God is saying the old system is beyond repair.
Exactly. It's the factory reset of the soul. But man, the middle part of that process is brutal. You're standing in the mud, you've got no straw, and the taskmasters are shouting. It's where most of us give up.
But we aren't going to give up, because segment 3 is where the name of God finally breaks through the noise.
That's right. We're going to talk about the secret name and a staff that turns into a snake. But first, let's take a quick breather. I need to go find some straw for my coffee. Wait, that's not right.
We'll be right back. And we're back from our break. If you're just now tuning in, you have missed a literal sun-snuffing showdown in Egypt. But don't worry, you can always rewind. Right now, John and I are standing at the threshold of the most famous night in Jewish history.
And potentially the most misunderstood word in your Bible. Stephanie, I've been sitting here vibrating because I want to talk about this Hebrew word, Pesach.
Okay, Pesach. That's where we get the word Passover, right? Most of us grew up with the cartoon version. The angel of death sees the blood and just hops over the house like a game of leapfrog.
Exactly. Like the destroyer is just doing some parkour over the suburbs of Goshen. But here's the kicker. That might not be what the word means at all. When you look at the Hebrew root pasa, it is such a weird double-edged sword. On one hand, yes, it can mean to limp or to be lame. We see it in 2 Samuel with Mephibosheth, whose feet were lame. Pasa.
John, wait. Limping? How does the Lord's limping make any sense for the night of deliverance?
Right? It sounds so weak. But researchers like Meredith Klein and others have dug into this, and they found a second root for Passover that means to hover or to flutter. Think about a mother bird.
Oh, wait, I found that in our notes. Isaiah 31 verse 5 says, God will protect Jerusalem as birds flying, passing over. He will preserve it.
Yes, this is the hidden gem for day 35. God wasn't just skipping the Israelites because he had a checklist. He was hovering over the doorway. He was forming an impenetrable fortress of his own presence right there on the lintel. He wasn't distant. He was intimately close, shielding the family from the judgment that was falling on the rest of the land.
That is so much more beautiful than the leapfrog version. It's the image of a God who puts his own body between his people and the danger. It's that eagle's wings imagery we see later in Exodus 19.
It's total bodyguard energy. God isn't just a judge, he's a shield. But look at how they had to eat this meal while God was hovering over them. Verse 11 is the travel guide for the soul. With your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste.
John, that sounds like a very stressful dinner party. I like to linger over my pasta, you know? Why the rush?
Because this is the go-bag mentality. God is telling them, I am about to move, and if you aren't ready to run, you're going to get left behind in the rubble of Egypt. He tells them to put their shoes on, which wasn't actually common for eating back then. Usually you'd kick off your sandals and relax. God says, keep your favorite kicks on. Keep your phone, your staff, in your hand. Be ready to move.
It's like being a soldier in the army who sleeps in their boots. It's spiritual readiness. Stephanie, how many of us are so comfortable in our Egypt, our old habits, our old drama, that we'd have to spend 20 minutes looking for our shoes if God told us to leave right now? Ouch, that hits home. And then there's the bread, the unleavened bread. We always hear it was because they didn't have time for it to rise, which makes sense if you're in a hurry, but there's a deeper, plain English reason for the yeast, right?
Total system reboot. Leaven or yeast is almost always a metaphor for sin or pride in the Bible. It's the stuff that puffs you up. By getting rid of the leaven, God is saying, we're doing a factory reset. No old baggage, no old corruption. We're going out as a clean, unleavened batch.
So, they're eating this roasted lamb, this flatbread, and bitter herbs? Why add the bitterness to a celebration?
To remind them of the bitter season they just came out of. It's like keeping a photo of your old self before you got healthy. You don't want to live there anymore, but you need to taste the bitterness so you never forget how sweet freedom actually is. It's the no pain, no gain of the ancient world.
I love that. But John, we have to talk about the crowd. Verse 38. A mixed multitude also went up with them. This is the part of the story I think we skip too often. It wasn't just the biological descendants of Jacob leaving Egypt.
The heir of Rav. This is massive. Imagine the scene. You have the Israelites, sure, but you also have Egyptians who saw their gods get crushed and said, I'm with the guy with the staff. You have other slaves from other countries who are like, I don't know who this Yahweh is, but he just turned off the sun, so I'm following him out of here.
So, God's radical inclusion started at the very beginning. It wasn't about DNA. It was about the blood on the door. I found this incredible weaving analogy in the research. The warp and the woof.
Explain that for the non-knitters in the back, Stephanie.
Okay, so in weaving, the warp are the vertical threads that stay put. That was Israel. The woof, or the mixed threads, are the ones that go across, interlacing everything together. Without both, you don't have a fabric. God took a bunch of mixed people from different tribes and tongues and wove them into one single, strong nation.
That is gospel fire right there. The kingdom of God has always been multi-ethnic. It's always been about anyone who is willing to come under the protection of the Lamb. Verse 49 literally says, there shall be one law for the native and for the stranger.
It's the same pattern we see in Revelation 7, isn't it? A great multitude from every nation standing before the Lamb.
It's the beta test and the final release, looking exactly the same. But Stephanie, before we wrap up today's deep dive, we have to look at the no broken bones rule in verse 46. Why did God care if they broke a leg on the lamb?
Right. If you're roasting it whole, it seems like a weird detail to be so strict about.
It's because God was protecting the blueprint. Years later, when Jesus is on the cross, the Roman soldiers start breaking the legs of the thieves to speed up their death. But they get to Jesus, and he's already gone. So they don't break a single bone. God was telling the Israelites in Exodus 12, "Don't touch the bones, because I'm showing you a picture of a Savior who will be crushed, but not broken."
Wow, the level of detail. It's like every single verse in Exodus 12 is a hyperlink to the life of Jesus.
It really is. It's the most important meal tradition in human history because it's the one that pointed us to the cross.
Well, that is our deeper dive for day 35. John, do you want to give the community their text message takeaway?
You got it. Here is your one-sentence summary for the group chat. Deliverance happens when you stop limping between two opinions and come under the hovering protection of the Lamb.
I love that. Your action step for today. Check your spiritual go bag. Is there anything in your life that's leavened? Any old pride or bitterness you're holding on to? Toss it out. Put your shoes on. Be ready to move when God calls you out of your Egypt.
And don't forget to check the show notes for the breakdown of the Egyptian gods we talked about. It's a literal power grid of judgment.
We'll see you tomorrow as we finally hit the road and head toward the sea.
Peace.